You're listening to XVGM Radio. XVGM Radio, where the bits keep coming. I'm Mike.
And I'm Justin.
And this is episode 79, Blaster Master Games. We are doing an entire episode on the Blaster Master video game franchise. We are both pretty big fans of it. And so we're doing this kind of to prep you for the upcoming final piece of the Blaster Master Zero trilogy that's coming out, Blaster Master Zero 3, that will be out in about a week.
The 29th,
29th of July for when this is coming out. So get pumped, get stoked and psyched to play that by listening to a bunch of Blaster Master jams on this episode.
Heck yeah.
Oh yeah. So, what do we come in on, Justin?
So, I mean, I don't think it needs a whole lot of introduction, but if you were born, too recently or have been living under a rock, that was from the original Blaster Master on the NES. Very classic. It was the combination of the intro and Area 1, and that was composed by Naoki Kodaka back in 1988.
That's right. Yep. I have a lot of fond memories from playing a lot of these games, actually. And so we'll dive into our Blaster Master nostalgia throughout this episode. We'll talk about some great tunes, and it's going to be a very exciting episode, I think. So strap yourself into your Sophia vehicle and your combat vehicle, and let's get to going.
Sophia the Third.
That's right. This track is just so iconic. When I think of Blaster Master, I immediately think of the Area 1 forest level. It's got such a great bounce to it. I mean, it's got, of course, that Sunsoft bass.
Well, yeah.
Of course. But it's so much fun to listen to. I just have a lot of very fond memories of getting just destroyed in this game.
As much as I like this game, I have never beaten the original Blaster Master.
Yeah, me neither.
It is so long. There's no codes, or no passwords, there's no save files. You have to beat it in one go. And I remember the last time I sat down to play this, I actually spent 2 or 3 hours. I think I got to World 6.
Oh, wow. That's pretty far.
Yeah. Before I was just like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
So like I need a save state. I need either something with save states, or I don't know if a game genie would let you just jump to different levels. It might. The way that the levels are structured, I don't know.
I think it would have to be like level based. Like you'd have to make it so that you start off each level. Like passwords make probably the most sense to me, but of course this doesn't have a save state in it, as you said, so it's pretty much you have to beat it in one go, and that's just, I don't know. For me personally, I would get stuck in like area 2 or 3.
Oh yeah.
And I would just kind of like be like, forget this, I'm just gonna go play Castlevania again.
3 is rough. 3 is where I pulled out the walkthrough.
Yeah.
To get through it, and I mean 4 is not much easier.
No, I think the farthest I've ever gotten was 4.
4, yeah.
Yeah.
It's rough.
Yeah. Plus you only get a certain amount of lives too.
Yep.
There's no continues, if I recall.
That's why I stopped playing.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. It wasn't because I got bored with it. It was because I died and had to start all over, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah, like you can get extra lives, if I recall.
You can, yeah.
But once you lose all your characters, all your one-ups, it's game over. So you have to start at the beginning. So
Exactly.
I don't know if there's a code to get to another level. I'd have to look it up.
I mean, that's what I was saying. Game Genie might have something. It's just the way that the levels are structured, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Like the Mega Man password system would make more sense, because you don't need a save state or a save file or anything. It's just you input this code that tells the game, like, this is where we're gonna be.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen. But I mean, not to get too far ahead of things, that's what the Blaster Master Zero part of the franchise is all about. I cannot wait for the third one to be out so that I can buy all 3 as a trilogy and then start playing them, because I have not started, and I've been wanting to for years.
Yeah.
Months. I know it's been I think the first one came out in 2018.
Something like that.
No,
earlier than that.
earlier than that.
Yeah,
2017. Yes.
Yeah.
But I wasn't aware of it when it came out. I think you turned me onto it a couple years ago, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then when I realized it was gonna be a trilogy, I was like, I'm just gonna wait.
Yeah, probably a smart choice. We're gonna talk about Naoki Kodaka a little bit more when we come back from another break, because we've got plenty of retro, old school, very first game Blaster Master to play for you. We're actually gonna be doing this chronologically for the releases, and believe it or not, we're gonna be starting off this episode with a game that's not a Blaster Master title in name.
No.
But it is technically considered part of the Blaster Master universe, believe it or not. It's Robo Warrior. This came out on the NES in 1987 and the MSX in 1988. We're going to be listening to the NES version of the Overworld Theme 2 track, and it's by Daisuke Inoue and Takeaki Kunimoto. Hey, thanks for joining us back on our Bomberman episode. Whoops.
What?
Ha! Gotcha. That was Blaster Master. Gotcha again. That was Robo Warrior. Oops. It's also known as Bomber King in Japan. And the track that we played was from the NES 1987 version of Robo Warrior called Overworld Theme 2. It also came out on the MSX in 1988, but we played the NES version. Daisuke Inoue and Takeaki Kunimoto were the composers on this game. This is a weird one.
This is very weird.
Yeah, because it sounds like Faxanadu. And that makes sense because it's using the sound drivers made by Sunsoft for the game. But the game was co-developed by ICOM, and the publisher, at least in the US, was Jalico.
Right.
Which makes sense because they work a lot with ICOM. ICOM also developed Astyanax and a bunch of other Jalico-published games.
I'm sorry, do you mean Astyanax?
No, it's Astyanax.
I know.
Robo Warrior is a pretty neat title. It plays like Bomberman, but actually it's based in the Blaster Master franchise.
Isn't it kind of like a... It's going to sound really stupid, but like an open world Bomberman? It's not...
Kind of.
It's not like a 16x16 grid or something, right?
Yeah. So that's the thing about Bomberman is Bomberman and parts of Blaster Master play identical because it's literally just like for Bomberman, it's like laying bombs and laying traps and stuff for the enemies to come across. And that's pretty much the gameplay here in Robo Warrior. But it's, I guess, because it's not like level based as far as I know, like you said, I think it's a little bit more different.
Yeah, my understanding was like the mixing of the two is sort of out of this because like the Robo Warrior game, I believe, spawned the Bomberman games, but it also spawned the Blaster Master games because there's two parts to Blaster Master on the NES. There's the side-scrolling parts where you're in the tank, and then there's the overhead view when you're just Jason.
Right.
And they took, I believe, a bunch of assets from Robo Warrior or concepts from Robo Warrior when they built those portions of Blaster Master. And because they are so intrinsically linked, they're not necessarily the same universe, the same game, but there's enough there that they are considered connected, which is just wild to me.
Yeah, it's very bonkers. Like, the thing that kind of blows my mind is that this game is obviously a Sunsoft creation, and yet Sunsoft owns the rights and the license and everything for Blaster Master.
Yes.
So how is it that this game is in the timeline of Blaster Master? I don't know. This is based on what the developers are saying. This isn't anything that we're saying. We're getting this information from the internet based on what the developers have said.
I also think that it's got a lot to do with like the direct sequel to this game, which we're going to talk about in a couple tracks. When it was brought to the US, I think it was turned into a Blaster Master game.
Right.
But when it was brought into other places, it was turned into a Bomberman game, I think.
Right. Yeah, we're going to talk about that when we get to that game very soon. So the plot, as far as Robo Warrior goes, is it's involving an alien planet called Altile. I think that's how you pronounce it. Or Altile? Altili? I don't know.
Tilly's Kendon.
It was a scientific creation, also a fix for the problem of overpopulation on our planet. So they created this very peaceful planet. There were these things called Robo Warriors, which were taken from Earth to, I guess, help fight the Xantho Empire, who were a invading race of aliens trying to take over Altile, so that way they can run it or whatever. You are playing as a cyborg named Zed, also known as Z-Type Earth Defense, and Zed goes to Altile to fight Xantho, the entire empire, and destroy the leader, whose name is Zur. So the way that you do that is by blowing up rocks and different walls and other Bomberman-like things.
I would assume enemies and
yeah, but you're using bombs to do so. So again, very Bomberman-esque, this game. The original Japanese plot of Bomber King is fairly similar, but I guess there was a game called Metafight as well.
Metafight is the Japanese version of Blaster Master.
Oh, okay. That utilized a lot of the mechanics that Bomber King created or started off with.
Right.
And that's the reason why I guess that it's, continued to be a part of this franchise. But again, totally different companies that didn't join forces again until a little bit later, as far as a game that we're going to talk about, at least in terms of quote-unquote proper sequels. What do you think of this track?
So the track was really kind of different. So I heard a lot of different things going on in it. The first thing, like I noticed the drums, like they're super crunchy NES drums, which I really like. It's not as crunchy as some of the other stuff, particularly like by Sunsoft, but it's like the white noise sample, the like used for the snare, and I really like that. I just like the way the NES makes that sound.
Agreed. Yeah.
But the main melody and the main harmonies going on were really cool and interesting. But I started picking up on like the counter melody that happens, and it reminds me a lot of something you'd hear on Final Fantasy 1. Like just like either in the battle music or some of the other background music. It was, like I said, it was subtle. It wasn't like in your face, but if you listen to like the quality of the notes sound almost like what Square was using at that time, and the note, like the note progression was just in that weird spot.
Yeah, I like that it wasn't super repetitive either.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I mean, a lot of NES games they typically do the same melody over and over and over again, or they'll do like a 30 to 40 second loop of the same melodies. But here you've got a track that is longer, but it also changes so much throughout the entire track, and I think I really like that aspect of the track itself. It had melody for sure.
A lot of stuff they were doing in like the chord. I said harmonies earlier, but some of it wasn't necessarily harmony. Some of the chords they were using were a little bit discordant, which was also really effective. Like I got almost it's called the Overworld theme too, but I got almost kind of like a cave vibe out of it, just with like how kind of creepy some of the discordant notes were.
I bought this one on kind of a whim. I managed to find a complete in-box copy for like maybe $10 a while ago, and was like, wow, this looks cool. All right, what's the music sound like? And I listened to the music, was like, whoa, definitely buying this. And I bought it, and I've played it since, and I enjoy it. It's really fun, but it's really difficult. Like it's pretty tough. So if you're looking for a challenge, this has 27 levels in 5 different formats. And the whole point is you have to get a key before your time limit is up. There's also some levels where like you have to get like a lamp in order to see. So I think that's one of the reasons why it kind of fit in that Bomberman universe later, is they took a lot of the more like action oriented and a little bit of puzzle oriented stuff where you have to like explore in Blaster Master games. And that's different than Bomberman, where like you don't necessarily have to explore. It's more like just getting to the end of the level.
Yeah, you need to survive.
Right.
That's all it is.
Yeah, there's a bigger focus on puzzling in a way, and exploration in Blaster Master games, and there's less of that in actual Bomberman. So I guess that makes sense. The composers on this one. So Daisuke Inoue started off with this game, Vapor Trail in 91. They did Spider-Man Lethal Foes in 95, which I believe is a Japanese exclusive. Yeah, for the Super NES.
It's Japanese Spider-Man?
Yeah, Japanese Spider-Man. Virtual Casino in 96. A game called Tengai Makio in 97, and their final game where they were considered the Manipulate Chief for Bomberman 64, which came out in 1997. The second composer, Takeaki Kunamoto, started off with Challenger in 85, Star Soldier in 86, Victory Run in 1987, Starship Hector in 1987, and then they did a Hudson Soft game called JJ and Jeff in 87, Break-In in 89, and their final game, Caravan Shooting Collection, in 1995. So let's go to your first pick of this episode. What do you got for us?
All right, so the next game in the list here is the Blaster Master game for the NES that came out in 1988. Since we already heard the most popular and famous pieces of it, we're going to listen to the Boss 2 and 3 theme, because these are kind of interesting, and of course composed by Naoki Kodaka.
So, fun fact about Boss 2, it is also the exact same song in a game called Freedom Force, which is a Sunsoft game, and so we're going to be playing both versions of the song. It's the exact same song in terms of the composition, but there are subtle differences, and we're going to have Justin see if he can pick which one is the Blaster Master one and which one is the Freedom Force one. So I'm not going to tell you which one we're going to be playing first, Justin. But the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to listen to Boss 3, which is its own song, and then we'll play 2 versions of Boss 2.
All right.
Got it? All right.
right, welcome back from that combination of songs from Blaster Master, the NES 1988 release. What you heard was Boss 3, and then, if I'm guessing correctly, you then heard the Freedom Force track and then Boss 2.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah!
You got it. So, yeah, the Freedom Force track is...
Very close.
It's so close, but it is literally composition-wise the same. There's some little subtle differences. Did you pick up the differences?
There's different notes and different progressions of the notes.
Yeah, like, in terms of the actual two songs, like the Blaster Master songs themselves, you know, you've got one that has a little bit more of like a jazz beat, like that part, but the other version of the song is just super hard hitting. I mean, it's like a borderline heavy metal song. So Naoki Kodaka definitely knew what he was doing as far as really implementing like the urgency of a boss fight.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like all three of those songs had a lot of urgency to them. They were, aside from just being fast paced, the composition itself really lends itself to like you gotta get up and do this thing.
Yeah, for sure.
The only complaint I have is how short the loops are. Particularly Boss 3, I find a little bit more. I know I picked it, but like I find it a little bit more annoying than Boss 2.
I can agree with that. Yeah.
Like I feel like I could listen to the Boss 2 and the Freedom Force track for a lot longer, but Boss 3, I don't know exactly what it is about it. Maybe it's a little bit too frenetic. Maybe it's a little too short. But I feel like I would get tired of hearing that real quick.
Yeah. I think the problem with that track is that it kind of stops so short on itself.
Yeah.
You know, once you hit that drum part, that's it. It's like a 4 to 5 second loop, pretty much. Whereas the other one, I feel like it connects better and it loops like a little bit easier, where like you can listen to it more or fluidly. But anyways, yeah, there are some like really, really subtle differences though between the Freedom Force version of the Blaster Master Boss 2 theme and the Boss 2 theme. The Freedom Force version feels like the notes are a lot more like they're a lot more like staccato kind of sound, whereas the Blaster Master notes are like more rounded, like da-na-na-na. It's like going down the stairs almost.
Yeah, they flow into each other a lot more.
So that was the major difference. And then I feel like the Freedom Force track is a little bit more brash sounding, like it's a little bit more aggressive in terms of the actual like sound of it, but maybe that's just this particular rip that we got off of it. But like literally, if you listen to the two back to back, you really have to be a super BGM nerd to be like, oh, wait a minute, these are slightly different. But the first time I listened to it, I was like, oh, they're the same song. You know?
Yeah, no, I can see why you would think they're the same song.
Yeah,
they are very, very similar.
I remember when I first found out about that, and I was like, wait a minute. No, he didn't just copy himself.
I was gonna say it's like, what is it, the Ice Baby versus
the
not Bohemian
Queen,
Rhapsody,
the Queen David Bowie Under Pressure.
Yes.
Yeah. They added the little.
It's like theirs goes, ours goes. Theirs.
Yeah. That should have been an idea that they could have implemented in the version. Just added a little at the end,
an extra.
I mean, we talked a lot about the first Blaster Master game already. I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, the original game was called Cho Wakusei Senki Metafight. It was a different game. Mostly a different game altogether.
Right.
The other thing is, in the Japanese game, you don't get any plot explanation. It's just in the manual. You have to read the manual to understand the plot. Some of the differences are kind of interesting. Like in the American version in Blaster Master, your vehicle is called Sophia the Third, but in the Japanese game, the game takes place on the planet Sophia the Third, located near the center of the Epsilon Galaxy. It's the year 2052. The characters are named differently. It's overall, I don't think the differences are so great, other than like some localization things, and I think that comes out a lot more in the Blaster Master Zero games, because when they went back and they took the story and then they kind of like expanded it and they did all this extra stuff with it. But in the Japanese game, the main character is not named Jason. He does not have a pet frog named Fred, who one day decides to leap out of his bowl out the door and down a hole in the backyard. Like,
right.
It's a weird, interesting game, and it's another one of the reasons that I want to check out the Zero series, because I'm curious as to like how they meshed all of these things together to create a cohesive world.
I think I remember playing Fester's Quest on the NES, and I remember playing this after Fester's Quest and being like, oh, this is like Fester's Quest. Because so when you're playing the game, it's a side-scrolling game where you're going in the Sophia, the third tank, as Jason. You shoot a bunch of bad guys, and when you go to specific parts of the level, you can enter into rooms that take you into levels that are, instead of being side-scrolling, they're now top-down, which that kind of harkens back to the Robo Warrior stuff. And so in those rooms, you're going through trying to find different items, different weapons, more powerful guns, that sort of thing. And a lot of the sound effects are reused from Fester's Quest. A lot of the mechanics are also kind of used too, in terms of leveling up weapons, where you get a gun and it levels up. I don't remember if there's a gun that drops you back down, like in Fester's Quest, where like you can get that. But there's all sorts of different things that kind of make me feel like Fester's Quest was supposed to be like a sequel to Blaster Master, and then they were like, let's, which I don't know which one came first. I've never actually looked it up to see, but I'm assuming that Fester's Quest came after Blaster Master.
Yeah, that one I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never heard any connection between the two, so if there was ever any intended connection in development, it
hasn't been mentioned
publicly,
at least. Yeah, but it's at least interesting to note. So that's kind of it as far as Blaster Master, the original, goes. We'll be talking a little bit more about how the story kind of changed the course of the franchise in a little bit.
Yeah, so Naoki Kodaka has a fantastic resume here, starting out doing music in Dead Zone in 1986. Spy Hunter, I'm fairly sure we mentioned that in our Spy Games episode.
Yep.
They were uncredited for that one.
We've talked a lot about Naoki Kodaka. I'm a pretty big fan of his stuff. So
Yeah. Ripple Island 88, Platoon, very, very busy in 88. Ripple Island, Platoon, Freedom Force, and Blaster Master. Fester's Quest, 1989, the year after.
There we go. Yep.
Batman the video game, fantastic.
Great game.
2, Journey to Silius. I mean, I could read every single one of these because they're all great games, but I don't want to get caught up in that.
The Afterburner 2, just to note, was a Famicom port of the Sega game, because Sunsoft was licensed to do all those like ports of the Sega games on the Famicom, because the Famicom was just so big. Sega was like, well, we should probably try to make some money off this, so Sunsoft came on and did the conversion. So yeah, so those are arranged credits. But anyways,
gotcha. Yep.
Yeah.
But the last credit that we have here for Naoki Kodaka is Albert Odyssey, Legend of Eldine in 1996.
Yeah, I believe he went on to either be a school teacher or a politician. I believe it was school teacher. I believe he ended up teaching like a music class or something like that in school, and that's pretty much what he's been doing ever since.
Yeah.
He's got newer credits on stuff, but it's all like
for original compositions.
Right.
Like Obobo's Big Adventure and Blaster Master Zero.
Yep. All right, well, it looks like we are getting a call on our caller request hotline. Let's go ahead and take a call. Janine, go ahead and pass that over to us.
XVGM Radio, who is this and what can we do for you?
Hello, I'm Bomberman.
Bomberman?
Yeah, and I want you to play a song from Bomberman.
Well, this is a Blaster Master focus episode, so that's not going to happen. Sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, all right. Well, goodbye.
Well, all right. That was a dud. I think we can come close.
Yeah, we could kind of meet in the middle. Let's go back to the Robo Warrior portion of the franchise with a proper sequel to Robo Warrior, but labeled as a Blaster Master game. So confusing, right? This is Blaster Master Jr., which came out in the Game Boy in 1993. This is Bomber King's theme, and it's by Shinichi Seiya, who did the arrangement, but the original is by the Robo Warrior composers Daisuke Inoue and Takeaki Kunimoto. Welcome back. That was Blaster Master Jr., which came out on the Game Boy in 1993. Just to kind of set you up here, it's also known as Blaster Master Boy here in North America, but for whatever reason online on like Wikipedia and like other sources, it's called Blaster Master Jr.
Yeah.
We're not sure why. It's also called Bomber King Scenario 2 in Japan. So the track that we played was Bomber King Theme, which was also in Robo Warrior. So this is basically this is like a Game Boy conversion of that track. That arrangement was done by Shinichi Seiya, and the original is by Daisuke Inoue and Takeaki Kunimoto.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Very, very good stuff. Anytime I hear something like great on the Game Boy, I'm always over impressed because I always forget how good the Game Boy sound chip actually is.
For sure.
Like in this one, the warble or tremolo effects they put on the notes, I always forget that the Game Boy can do that. I hear it, I'm like, oh wow. It's not anything super special, but I'm impressed that this little device that runs on AA batteries can actually do that kind of stuff. It's just impressive to me. But this track in particular, I like the melody. It's really, really catchy. It's going to be stuck in my head for a while. I noticed like towards the end of the loop, the melody does this like call and response thing that doesn't really exist anywhere else in the song, but it really works. Like it kind of like amps up the whole track.
The beginning of the track has that like introduction almost, like it really reminded me of ice hockey. So the original like do 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 do. In the beginning of the ice hockey track, it starts off, it's like do 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 do, like almost like a startup sound.
Yeah.
And that's what this reminded me of, that one part where the beginning kind of starts like that. But yeah, you dead on with the rest of it, like that call and answer kind of response is really cool. But the thing I gotta note is like, what a transformation from that original Hudson Soft version, which we didn't play that version of the song because, you know, we wanted to play something different for when we were talking about Robo Warrior. But if you listen to that original version, it still sounds very much like a Hudson Soft track. But man, this is straight up like a Sunsoft jam with the sound font style that they used. And when you look at Shinichi Seiya's credits for arrangement, it completely makes sense. He did like the Batman game on the NES, as well as I believe the conversion over to the Game Boy. He also worked on the NES Batman, Gremlins 2, all those Sunsoft games that often either also get credited to Naoki Kodaka or incorrectly get credited to Naoki Kodaka because, again, Dat Sunsoft bass. When you think Dat Sunsoft bass, you think Naoki Kodaka.
Right.
But that is simply not the case here. He also did Super Spy Hunter in 1991. He did Batman Return of the Joker in 91. Again, like, he worked with Naoki Kodaka a lot on these types of games. He was the music programmer on a Game Boy game called Trip World in 1992. His final credit is Little Princess, which came out in 1999. I believe it was a Japanese exclusive. But yeah, that's pretty much it for his credits. We don't need to talk about the other guys because we already talked about them. But
right.
Yeah, this game though is pretty interesting.
Yeah. So I mean, you want to talk about a like Blaster Master Bomberman crossover? Like this is definitely it.
Oh yeah.
And what's crazy is it was published by Sunsoft in all regions, although it was not developed by them. It was developed by Icom.
Right. So they kind of returned to do a proper sequel to their first game for Robo Warrior. So I think, honestly, that is the tie-in. I think this Blaster Master Boy game is the tie-in to the entire franchise. Because I feel like they retroactively fit it in, Robo Warrior in, to the Blaster Master universe by doing this.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like, I feel like this game, in because of how it was released and because of how it went out, like that was the thing, like that actually tied everything back. In the first Blaster Master, as we've said, like there were elements that they took from Robo Warrior when they made Blaster Master. I don't think they took like assets per se, but like there was a lot of stuff that was done in Robo Warrior that they took and used in Blaster Master.
Right.
And then when the sequel to that came out and Sunsoft decided to publish it, they were just like, hey, you know, this is what it is in Japan, but we've already got this franchise in, you know, the Western territories. We're just gonna slightly reskin this, and like that character kind of almost looks like Jason anyway, so let's just do that.
Oh yeah. And I mean, like, Blaster Master was huge in the North American territory.
Yeah.
Let's move on to your next pick, so that way we can continue talking about Blaster Master. What do you got for us coming up?
Sure. So this is the direct sequel to Blaster Master 2, which came out on the NES, of course. No, it came out in the Genesis in 1993. This is going to be Stage 6, and it was done by Tony Williams of Sound Images, I believe. Welcome back to our Blaster Master Spotlight. That was Blaster Master 2, the 1993 Genesis game. The track was Stage 6, and it was composed by, I believe, Tony Williams of Sound Images. Moby Games only lists Sound Images. Did a little bit more digging and found Tony Williams' name in there. But when I look up Tony Williams, there are like a million Tony Williamses on Moby Games.
Right.
And I got tired of doing research after looking at the fifth one and not seeing any audio credits.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a mystery. If you know the truth behind this, let us know, and we'll update the show notes and stuff. But overall, not much to say about the composer, because wasn't able to find anything about them.
Sure.
But this game, so I've never played it.
I have.
I've heard it's not great.
It's not great.
I can tell kind of just by the cover art that it's not going to be a great game. When your cover art consists of the name of your game and that's it.
Yeah.
Like it's on a ball or a sphere, I guess. But like, oh man.
Yeah.
So tell me more.
Well, I'll get to the game in a sec, but I want to talk about the music, obviously, because that's always our focus.
Right.
I don't know about this one. Like, it's got parts that I really like, and then it's got parts that I really am kind of like torn on. The initial kind of abrasive noise is like borderline twamp.
It definitely is.
In the beginning there, but then as the track kind of gets along, I really like the part where it's like
yes.
It got into a really fun groove, and then it kind of cycles back to the beginning of the track.
Yeah.
And it's okay, it's not bad. I was digging more the tail end of the track and the later half of the track than the beginning of the track.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we see this track pretty much the same way. I enjoyed it for the most part. I definitely did not like some of the more grating bits, but I picked it because I was kind of just able to look past that and get into like the meat of it, and it was just so funky.
Yeah.
And I was like, Blaster Master doesn't strike me as a particularly funky game, but the Genesis, I would say, is a good vehicle for funky music because of the sounds you can get out of it. So, I don't know. I thought it felt like a lot of fun, and I'm disappointed to know that the game itself, because I've seen some screenshots, I haven't actually watched any of the gameplay. I'm like, wow, this is what I would expect Blaster Master to kind of look like brought from the 8-bit into the 16-bit. So, like, visually, it didn't look bad, but I guess it just... It also wasn't, like... This was specifically a Blaster Master game. This was not related to Metafight or Robo Warrior.
Right.
It didn't even release outside of North America.
That's because Blaster Master was so huge over here that Sunsoft of America was like, we gotta put out a sequel. Like, we have to capitalize on this. This is our franchise. This is our baby. And even like long after Sunsoft was kind of dead and buried and kind of just like a name for the Sun Corporation to like have, it ended up being the face of the company. That and, of course, in Japan, the Hebereke stuff.
Yes.
For the Hebereke characters. But over here, everyone knew Sunsoft from their licensed games and Blaster Master. Like, that was it. So they made this sequel with Software Creations, which is a Western company who I believe is based out of the UK. So it feels very UK-ish. Like, take Turrican and twist it and mold it and sculpt it so it's actually Blaster Master. So it's like it's like the UK team made a game that looks like Blaster Master but doesn't feel like Blaster Master.
Gotcha, that's okay.
So it's kind of clunky, it's kind of slow. It also just doesn't feel or sound at all like the original game. I don't know. I didn't like it. I remember buying it years ago because I was like, oh man, they made a sequel to Blaster Master? I never knew about that because I wasn't a Genesis kid. So when I finally was like buying games for the Genesis back in like the early 2000s, I was like, let me check out Blaster Master 2. And I bought it for like $5 and I sold it right back. I was like, nope, this is not good. Yeah, it's not terrible. Like, it's not awful, but it's just not Blaster Master. You know, it just didn't feel like Blaster Master to me. And I think Sunsoft also kind of felt that way too, because long after these games were released, like the sequels and everything, Blaster Master 2 kind of fell by the wayside. A lot of like, you know, recognition got put on the original game and not so much the sequels. So, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a number of sequels, which is obviously what we're going to be getting into later.
Sure. Yep.
But
it just feels like a European-made Blaster Master game. And you either hate it or you like it.
Yeah.
I think I'm kind of like more in the hate it.
Hate it.
Yeah, kind of vibe. But, oh well.
Yeah.
We don't have any info on Tony Williams, so I guess we'll move on to our next track.
Yeah, what do you got?
Blaster Master Enemy Below, which is a port of the original Blaster Master, ported over to the Game Boy Color in 2000. This is Area 3, and it's by Akira Suda, with, again, Naoki Kodaka doing the original. Hey, how yous doing? It's me, Zeke Minicini, the owner and proprietors of your #1 Master Blasters Auto Repair in the greater Long Island County or something. Listen, have I got a deal for you? Free wash of the exterior and interior with any full upper body repair. You got taken out by the weird stretchy faces that shoot balls at you? We got you covered. Crawly thingies taking your wheels out because you didn't know you could just jump over them and lightning blast them? No problem. Got reckless just for the heck of it? We'll be there. We're fully certified turtleified to work on all Sophia vehicles, even J7s. So, what are you waiting for? We don't just do body work, we also fix internals too. So come on down, munch on some hot buttery pretzels while you wait, completely free of charge, mind you.
These things ain't cheap.
You said it, Ralphie. Hey, that's my cousin Ralphie over there. He's good people. Anyways, hey, come on down and get your Master Blasters back in action today. Welcome back. That was Blaster Master Enemy Below, also known as Metafight EX in Japan. That came out exclusive to the Game Boy Color in 2000, and that was Area 3 by Akira Suda, with the original version of that track being done by Naoki Kodaka from the original Blaster Master. What do you think of this track? I really am curious about your thoughts on this one.
So I was trying to remember the original version to like compare it in my head, and I can't pull it forward. So I don't really have a good point of reference. But this one was kind of bright and cheery, which was weird because I don't remember anything from the game being particularly bright and cheery. Not like not that the whole game is like dirgy and like and gross, but it's, you know, you're underground and there's these mutants, and so like a lot of the music is there to like either help you press on or to give you the atmosphere of, you know, weird stuff going down.
Yeah, the first Blaster Master game had a lot of music that fell weirdly in between either super cheery or very driving or very haunting. There were some levels where it's just like do 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 do, like I think that's like Area 4 or something like that. But this one definitely felt a little bit more cheery, more like the first level music.
Yeah.
You hear that first level music, you're getting into a dance fit there. But this one had a very 80s dance synth pop kind of vibe to it. But I gotta say, this particular version sounds like, you know when you buy like generic Fruit Loops? And like you can taste the difference, but it's like Fruit Hoops instead of Fruit Loops. So that's what this is. And the reason I bring that up is because it sounds like there's parts of the song where it just can't get there, you know, with those melodies. There's no call and response echo from the previous NES version. In the NES version, there's the do-do-do-do, 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 and then it goes up an octave, do-do, almost like an echo.
Yeah.
And that is just, it's flat. So it's do-do-do-do, 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 do-do. There's no octave higher. So that immediately was like, nope, I am listening to Fruit Hoops right now. And then later on in the track, it kind of very similar has these moments where it just can't quite get there. It can't mimic the original track enough so that it sounds like a beefier version, like a chunkier version, but it just doesn't sound identical, both in terms of composition and arrangement of this track. So it's just like a weird, awkward port.
Yeah.
And that kind of is the explanation of the entire game of Blaster Master Enemy Below.
Oh no.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically like a lot of developers, when the Game Boy Color came out, they were like, hey, you know, we've got, you know, hey, listen, I work for Sunsoft of America. My name's Tony. Nice to meet you. We got our Blaster Master, and everybody loves it. But listen, we could bring it over from the NES to the Game Boy Color because, you know, they're compatible.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing that kind of surprises me. I'm surprised that they decided to meddle with it, because the Game Boy Color, for all intents and purposes, from what I remember, was like a handheld NES.
Pretty much.
The Game Boy itself was fairly impressive, but it was only the two colors. But even, I think the Game Boy sound hardware was
sound
pretty
hardware
close
was
to the NES.
beefier. I mean, it was slightly beefier than the original Game Boy.
So the Game Boy Color was 8-bit as far as graphics go, and the sound hardware was not identical, but close enough to the NES. Like, you could have just ported it and had a portable version of Blaster Master. You didn't have to mess with it.
And if you listen to other Dat Sunsoft-based songs on the Game Boy, they're incredible. They're either direct ports of the NES versions, or they have a Game Boy fuzz to them that still, when you listen to it, you're like, wait, hold up. Is this the NES version or the Game Boy version? Oh, that's the fuzz? Okay, that's the Game Boy version. So you would know. Yeah, it's the fuzz. So you would know. But this was actually developed supposedly by Outback Party Company in Japan. It was also developed by Sunsoft Games in North America. So I don't know if this was like their US branch that like in-house developed it, but I don't think that's the case. It's a little confusing online when you look up the info, but this one just, I don't know. It's a Game Boy Color port of Blaster Master. It's like one of those things like, just go play Blaster Master now. Like in this modern era. Don't even bother. You know what I mean? But hey, everybody's different. Arrangement on this one done by Akira Suda, who has only 3 credits: Karate Blazers, Magical Drop F, and this game. So now we're going to get into your next pick. I'm excited for this one.
Me too. I've started playing this game again recently after I picked it up when we talked about it on a live show.
Yeah.
So this is Blaster Master Blasting Again. Came out on the PS1 in 2000. The track is Castle of the Plants, and it was composed by Satoshi Asano. You're listening to XVGM Radio. Alrighty, that was Blaster Master Blasting Again. Came out in 2000 on the PlayStation 1. The track was Castle of the Plants and was composed by Satoshi Asano.
I really like this track. It's so good. I like that Capcom 90s vibe that they kind of implement in the beginning, and it's got those like jazzy kind of elements to it, the very like plucky guitar almost, but it's like synth. It's like electronic synth.
The synth, and even the guitars that are behind it. It reminds me not of any particular track from the game, but in general of some of the like menu select or like background music from Mega Man X4.
Right. Yeah, I can get on board with that. Yeah, very Capcom.
Yeah.
But then it kind of shifts into this like crunchy kind of dum dum down dum 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 dum.
Yeah.
I really love that transformation that the track takes. So it's really good stuff.
Agreed. The soundtrack itself, like, I wouldn't say everything sounds super cohesive because there are different areas and the areas sound fairly different, but the soundtrack itself for this game is really good.
Yeah, it is.
Like, I'm really enjoying it. I haven't gotten very far in the game because I checked, and for whatever reason, I did not have my original save. So either I lost it, I deleted it, or I lost the memory card. I don't know what happened, but I've had to start all over, and it's rough just because when I actually played this game, I played it the last time on a PS1 or maybe on a PS2.
Right.
And now I'm playing it on a PS3 on the HD screen. I'm just like, oh, it does not look good.
Yeah.
But it is a fun game. Like, despite the looks, like if you play it on CRT, it'll probably be fine.
It'll probably look normal, yeah.
Yeah, so I gotta at some point pop it in my PS2 and see what I can do with it. But it's just, it does not look good on an HD TV.
Yeah, I can see that, but it also depends on the type of cords you have too.
I mean, it's a PS1 game, so
yeah.
I don't know how much upscaling it's going to do.
I think it's more just makes everything sharper and crisper. There's also a feature in the PS2 where it'll like you can either have like crisper PS1 graphics or like sharper.
Oh,
You could also change like that too, so it kind of like softens or sharpens stuff.
Yeah, there's some settings like that on the PS3 when you're playing PS1 games.
Yep.
I actually haven't played around with those. I should take a look at that.
Yeah.
Either way. Yeah, I don't mean to knock it for poor graphics.
It's a 32-bit game. You don't have to worry.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's 3D, so I mean, you've got tank controls, which are a little bit weird, going back to those days. But it doesn't take away from the fact that it feels like I wouldn't say a natural continuation of the Blaster Master story, but it does feel like a good continuation of it.
Or even like maybe an evolution, like a proper evolution of what the franchise would have been like if it continued on its path. There's so many games from the 8-bit era that like just didn't properly transition into 32-bit or 64-bit.
Right.
So it's cool to see a game come out. And even like when this was released, it was a budget title. Like this was like very much an afterthought for Sunsoft, where they were just like, hey, we'll put it out. Maybe the kids will buy it, So I think it released for like maybe $19, like $19.99.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think it was like a budget title. I really don't think they put that much money into making it. And I know I didn't see any advertisements for it. So it was just one of those things where you would walk into the game store and be like, what? There's a new Blaster Master game?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's exactly what happened with me. The game was released in North America in 2001 and Japan in 2000. So it's funny because like Blaster Master as a series or whatever was more popular in North America, but they made a Blaster Master game and gave it to Japan before they gave it to us. Whatever. I didn't catch it as it came out because, like you, I didn't see any advertisement or anything for it. So it was either the beginning of college or it was a few years into college, and I was walking around the mall with some friends and like on EBX or something and saw that, and I was like, whoa, wait, they made more Blaster Master games? Again, I wasn't a Genesis kid, so I did not even know that Blaster Master 2 ever even existed.
Yeah.
But I saw that and I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, no, I'm gonna buy it. Like it's not a whole lot of money. I'm gonna pick this up. And I remember bringing it home and popping it in and being a little bit confused at first because it's not about Jason. But I played it and was like, this is actually really fun. Like it wasn't a bad game. So Satoshi Asano has a very brief resume here. Started out doing sound data on Riven, the sequel to Myst, in 1997. That might have been the Sega or maybe the PlayStation port. It definitely
maybe like Sega Saturn or something, because it was the 97 that would have been Saturn.
Yeah, so definitely was not the original PC or Mac version. And then went on to do music composition in Shanghai Pocket in 1998, followed by Astra Superstars, also 98. Then Daffy Duck Foul Play in 1999, that was a Game Boy Color release, and their last credit is for Blasting Again.
Cool. All right, so I've got a track from Blaster Master Overdrive coming out. That's the Wii remake of Blaster Master. This came out in 2010. The track we're going to listen to is Area 2, and it's by an unknown arranger. But of course, the original credit goes to Naoki Kodaka. We're back. That was Blaster Master Overdrive on the Wii, the 2010 release. That was Area 2 by Naoki Kodaka. Who knows who the arranger is? No idea. Couldn't find any information on the arrangement.
Yeah, that's a shame, too, because this is a really, really fun arrangement. Mm-hmm. I actually forgot how fun the Area 2 track is from Blaster Master. Mm-hmm. And this, in particular, feels like we were talking with like the Game Boy version and just like the evolution of the sound and whatnot. This feels like a true evolution of the original's music to me.
Like, I could see that.
The music in the original was good, and I feel like they didn't ruin it or anything like that. Like they took it and they blew it up a bit.
Yeah.
Which was really cool.
Yeah, it certainly sounds a lot more dirty and grungy almost, but like it also has these like Casio keyboard kind of vibes, you know? But I was really digging this version of the track. This is probably my favorite version of the track outside of the original. But yeah, this is basically a remake of the original Blaster Master. So, you know, I mean, it's not like we haven't already had one on the Game Boy Color and whatnot. But in this one, plot-wise, the Earth has become infected with a virus, and that virus is making animals turn into monsters. So you play as Alex, who is a world-leading biologist, and you're using the Sophia vehicle to battle the transformed monsters.
Like mutants.
Yes, so to speak. So no Jason, instead Alex. I'm not sure why they remade it and changed the name of the character. Weird. But this one was developed by Sunsoft, supposedly, but this was basically like Sunsoft's first attempt at trying to rebuild their brand in North America. But they teamed up with Gaijin Works, and Gaijin Works is, I guess you could say, the remnants of Working Designs, which they brought over like a bunch of really, really big-time games like Lunar, Silver Star Story, stuff like that. Yeah. So they're the ones with the fancy covers and holographic covers and foil and all that goofy 90s stuff that everybody loves, including myself. But they kind of worked with Sunsoft to bring this one over, and I don't know, I don't remember if I played this one or not. I don't even remember if I own this one. I'd have to go back and look to see if I do. I think it's one of those things that if I do own it, I bought it just because I knew it was going to disappear from, you know, the WiiWare once the WiiWare shut down. But it's probably the best of the attempts at recreating the original Blaster Master, both in sound and gameplay.
Yeah, I'll have to check my old Wii to see if cause I feel like I got this, because again, going back, like I loved the original Blaster Master game, and when I found Blasting again, I jumped into that, and I feel like I remember when this came out and being excited about it. I just can't remember if I actually grabbed it, but if I did, I may have to boot that up and give it a try, because I didn't remember that they renamed the characters. Like, they kept the gameplay for the most part the same.
Like, why wouldn't they? I don't know. The whole thing with the frog, like, why does everyone gotta try to change it up? Like, just leave leave Fred alone.
I guess the original plot is a little bit silly. Like, kid sees frog jumps away, kid chases frog, falls down a hole, and finds an entire underground world of monsters. Okay, it's a little bit weird, but like,
you didn't do that in your youth?
I mean, I did, but I chased so many frogs because of Blaster Master.
Absolutely. We've all been there. So it looks like we are getting a phone call on the Patreon request hotline, which is exciting because that means one of our patrons is calling up to request a track.
Awesome. Janine, why don't you go on and send that on over so we can play them a song.
XVGM Radio, who are we talking to, and what do you want to hear?
Hey guys, Chris Murray here. Yo, can you play that Blaster Master song? You know, the Blaster Master one? It plays when you're like in the car, but then you get out of the car, and then you go to that place, but then you have to go back, and then you get back in the car, and then you go back out of the car. But it's, you know, the one that goes digga-da-da, digga-da-da. Okay, that should do it. Catch you on the flip-flop content. But yeah, that's my catchphrase now, and I'm not sorry.
That song.
Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, that track we've already played, but I think we can do you one better. I think it's about time to get into the Blaster Master Zero series here. So let's do that track from that game. This came out in the 3DS and the Switch in 2017. The track is called The Underground Adventure Begins, and it was composed by Ippo Yamada, Hiroaki Sano, Aoi Takeda, Kotaro Yamada, and Naoki Kodaka. All right, welcome back to our Blaster Mastravaganza. That was patron Chris Murray's pick from Blaster Master Zero. Came out on the 3DS and the Switch in 2017. The track was The Underground Adventure Begins, originally composed by Naoki Kodaka, but arranged and recomposed by Ippo Yamada, Hiroaki Sano, Aoi Takeda, and Kotaro Yamada.
Indeed. I really love this version of the original track of Area 1. I mean, especially since we just listened to it, like, you know, during the intro.
Yeah.
It's really cool to hear the differences that they implemented in this version. It's so much more energetic, so much more exciting, and I absolutely love those drums in this version. Yeah. It's almost like a jazzier, spicier version.
Yeah, it feels a lot more aggressive to me.
Yeah, agreed. I also love the fact that they kept that Sunsoft bass in the music in all the songs. So when you listen to it, you're just like, wow, this just sounds exactly like the original Sunsoft NES Dat Sunsoft bass. It's almost as if they took what worked for the NES and like beefed it up. Like, just pumped it up.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, they basically took the original NES track and were like, hey, you know what? This isn't broke, so we don't need to do anything to it.
Mm-hmm.
What we are going to do is add to it. And what they added really felt like a true complement and a true addition to things. Like, you can add things to something and make it worse. Mm-hmm. Like, we've probably played plenty of tracks previously where it's been like an evolution of something, and it's just like something's been added that kind of takes away from it. Not something necessarily that's terrible, but like, I don't know, what they did here just really blew me away. All the more reason that I want to play it, because it does something different than what the other remakes have done. Like, so we talked about the Game Boy Color version, and we just talked about the WiiWare version where they changed the names of the people and whatever else.
Right.
But this technically serves as a sequel to the original Metafight game, which is the Japanese one, but it also serves as like a reboot of the American plot, as it were.
So that's like, what, the third reboot of the original Blaster Master?
Yeah, but so they use elements and character names from both Metafight and Blaster Master and the Worlds of Power novelization that we talked about.
Right.
So it's really like this awesome culmination of everything that made Blaster Master to make the ultimate, the blaster of masters.
the most blasterist of masterists.
Yeah.
But technically, so the canon-wise, it would be Blaster Master 0, Blaster Master 02, Blaster Master 03, and then Blaster Master blasting again, technically.
Oh, okay.
Because if we're ruling out the original Blaster Master as being canon, quote unquote,
right,
because 0 is basically just a retelling or a reimagining, I guess, full-on combination of all these adaptations into one super version of the game.
Yeah.
So this, I guess, would be the first game technically.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So the Blastmaster 0 would be the first game in the new timeline or whatever. We'll have to see what Blaster Master 03 brings to see what that makes of Roddy and blasting again, but we'll see hopefully soon as of when this comes out.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. Hopefully they do kind of chain it together with Blaster Master blasting again, because I really do feel like that game should get more recognition.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. But so this one has an interesting backstory where like it's a distant future. The Earth falls into an ice age. There's wars, environmental disasters, etc. And then several hundred years later, we come across a character named Jason Frudnick. That name is familiar. That's the original character.
Yes.
He's a young genius in the field of robotics, not just a child chasing a frog this time.
Right.
But he does find an unusual-looking frog and decides to name it Fred. And then Fred jumps into a wormhole that seems to appear out of nowhere, and Jason finds himself following him and ends up in this underground environment from the past, where he encounters Sophia the Third, which he, I guess, just gets in and is able to just
Why not?
use and to fend off like the mutants that have taken over the area. But we meet Eve in this game, so like now the game has a canonical introduction of the character Eve, who's connected to Sophia. And I don't know how deep I want to go and what I want to ruin here. So if you haven't played the game like me, I've just read the Wikipedia article, so I've ruined a bunch of things for myself. Don't do that. Play the game. I'm still going to be excited when I get to these things, but there are some interesting things involving Eve, Sophia, Fred, and Jason.
And I guess we could probably wait to talk about the composers since they're all on the sequel.
Well, there's a lot of them, so we can hit on a couple. I'll take that first name, Ippo Yamada. Ippo Yamada started out way back in 1994 with X-Men Mutant Apocalypse. They were uncredited as a sound designer. The first music composition credit that I see here is for Speed Powered Gunbike in 1998. And then they were involved in all of the Mega Man Zero games as a sound production sound designer, as well as Mega Man ZX and Mega Man ZX Advent, which are all games that I enjoy. So just to touch on a few other music composition notes here, Mighty Gunvolt Burst in 2017, and then music director for Dragon Marked for Death Limited Edition in 2019.
Also, Mega Man 9 and Mega Man 10.
Oh yeah, they were just listed as sound production. I didn't realize they did music.
All right, let's get into Blaster Master 02, the sequel. This came out on Windows, Switch in 2019, and the PlayStation 4 in 2020. The track is called Connected Chicks. It's by, again, Ippo Yamada, Hiroaki Sano, Aoi Takeda, and Kotaro Yamada, with, again, credits for the original music by Naoki Kodaka. What a jam! That was Blaster Master 02 on Windows and Switch in 2019, and also came out on the PS4 in 2020. The track was Connected Chicks, and it's by Ippo Yamada, Hiroaki Sano, Aoi Takeda, Kotaro Yamada, and of course original music by Naoki Kodaka floating around in there somewhere. I love this track. I mean, basically, I feel like it was a Mega Man track that somebody wrote for a Mega Man game, and they were like, hey, why don't we implement this into Sunsoft? Give it that Sunsoft bass, know what I mean?
I can see that. I got a weird, 80s montage almost out of this.
Okay. Especially with those,
Exactly. So I don't know if montage is quite the right word, but it definitely feels like something that you might see in a version of the Karate Kid or something like that. It feels like something out of an 80s movie to me.
Sure.
And then with the name Connected Chicks, obviously there's a lot of interesting pictures that you could draw on for that, but I take this to be not knowing anything about the game, but knowing little bits and pieces from what I've read previously. I'm gonna say it's got something to do with Eve and Sophia, both female names, so they're chicks and they're connected because they've got a weird connection.
I don't necessarily know if that's true, but it's a good theory. But plot-wise, this one, I really don't want to give too much away. One, because I started to read the information on the plot and was like, oh man, I'm spoiling it, and I haven't played it.
That's what I just did.
Right. So we'll try to not give too many spoilers, but this is, of course, a direct continuation from the first game, Blaster Master 01. And in this game, Jason creates a new tank called Gaia Sophia, which is new and improved. Essentially what happens is Eve's body has these mutant cells in it that are trying to destroy her because she's like a cyborg person or whatever. Not a cyborg, like an android or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And so Jason is trying to find a cure for her. So they can't find a cure on Earth, so they leave to try to get her help. So there's all these other characters that get showcased, including Elfie, who is, again,
one of their children. But
in this one, it's a ghost of a support android named Elfie. If this was to fit canon-wise in with Blaster Master Blasting again, maybe they named their first kid after Elfie, or their second kid after Elfie. Maybe. So that is the deal. So again, I don't want to give too much away, but that's the basic plot of what happens in this game. There's all sorts of weird bosses in this one. I remember seeing some of the character art, and one of the characters was this woman. She was a watermelon. She was part watermelon or something like that, and had ginormous watermelon digital giblets. And I was like, why? Okay, all right, I'm not going to question it. It's okay. So, I mean, just really funky, weird stuff like that they tried to implement. Obviously, very focused on, keeping it in line with the Japanese style and perspective of the original Blaster Master games, but throwing in this anime influence that, I feel like it didn't have a presence in the first one, so maybe some fans dislike it, but I don't know. I guess it's all based on, what you prefer as your personal taste.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So Hiroaki Sano, to continue from the previous part that we were talking about there, started off with Galgun Double Piece in 2016. Also did the Happiness edition of that game. Then also worked on the first Blaster Master 0, Galgun 2 in 2018, and Bloodstained Curse of the Moon in 2018 as well. And we'll talk about Aoi Takeda. Started off with Mighty Gunvolt in 2015, Azure Striker Gunvolt 2 in 2016. That was Inticreates' first original franchise that they introduced, which was the Gunvolt series. Mighty Gunvolt Burst in 2017. Then pretty much very similar to the other composer, worked on Galgun, Blaster Master 0, Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, and Gunvolt Chronicles Luminous Avenger 9. And then Dragon Marked for Death, Advanced Attackers in 2019. But let's close out with your final pick.
So originally I was hoping to pick a track from Blaster Master 03, despite it not being out. The soundtrack for that game, as of this recording, is not out yet, so there was really no way to do that. So I went back into Blaster Master 02 and picked the track Battle Blasters. And again, this came out on the Switch and on Windows in 2019 and on the PS4 in 2020. Composed by Ippo Yamada, Hiroaki Sano, Aoi Takeda, Kotaro Yamada, and with original compositions by Naoki Kodaka. Right, welcome back. That was our last track of this episode on Blaster Master games. That was Blaster Master 02, which was released on Windows and the Switch in 2019, and then on the PS4 in 2020. The track we heard was called Battle Blasters, and it was composed by Ippo Yamada, Hiroaki Sano, Aoi Takeda, Kotaro Yamada, as well as original compositions by Naoki Kodaka.
This one was very frantic, very kind of scary, and what really captured the essence of the original games was, of course, the original tones of Dat Sunsoft bass and everything, but I also felt like the urgency here was a little bit different than in the other track that we played from 02, Connected Chicks. I feel like Connected Chicks is more like a level theme, whereas this feels more like a cutscene.
Yeah, like I could see this either being a boss, a cutscene, or like an extra feature. Like okay. I don't think there are, but like I was thinking like a 2-player versus thing or something weird like that.
Or even maybe like if you got an extra item or you upgraded your weapons or whatever. You know.
Oh yeah, like a temporary power up thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. I'm not sure where it plays, but yeah, it's good stuff. I was digging this one. I really like this whole soundtrack. Yeah, no, I haven't heard anything off of either the Zero games that I didn't like. It was tough to pick. yeah. I really like. So this one kind of gives me a couple different thoughts and ideas. Like it definitely feels frantic. There's also like a bit of like soaring I get out of this, like where it just kind of go da 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 da. Yeah. And it just kind of keeps going up there. Ascending melodies. Yeah. So it was a little bit different than some of the other stuff that we've heard. I just kind of wanted to get something else to showcase from the Blaster Master series in this. For sure, yeah. I mean, we would have played a 03 track instead, but we just don't. 100%. Yeah, it does not exist at this point. So give it a week, ladies and gents. Yeah, once that soundtrack is out, we'll find a way to shoehorn it into one of our shows. For sure, yeah, absolutely. So I guess we'll talk about the final composer. Kotaro Yamada. Started out doing sound design for Azure Striker Gunvolt in 2014. They've been around for a handful of years,
working mostly sound effects and sound design. So I don't see anything here that's actually labeled specifically music, but I will call out a couple of things. Mighty Number 9 in 2016, they were a sound designer. A bunch of the Galgun stuff, I think almost all the Galgun stuff. Azure Striker Gunvolt 2, Mighty Gunvolt Burst, Blaster Master 0, obviously in 02. And then we come up to Bloodstained Ritual of the Night 2019. They did sound effects. In 2020, they were a Foley artist on Marvel Avengers, and that's just funny. I don't see Foley artists listed often in video games, so that's really cool.
Yeah.
And then they did sound design in Final Fantasy VII Remake in 2020, which is really cool. And then most recently, they're listed as lead sound designer on Balan Wonderworld in 2021.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's that game recently came out from Yuji Naka,
Oh,
who just left Square Enix because of it. Interesting. And, of course, Naoki Kodaka, who we already covered on this episode. So no further need to go into how great he is, because he's awesome. We also got to give a shout-out to Dat Sunsoft Bass
Oh, yeah. No, this
for
is
being the real all-star of these tracks.
100%. This
Yeah.
is a follow-up to our...
Mr. Gimmick, the Gimmick and the FME7, or FM7 chip. All right, now is the time when we pick our favorite track of the episode, which is going to be really tough because there was some great stuff. Justin, go for it.
Aside from the track that we came in on, the intro in Area 1, is very nostalgic, which also leads me to Chris Murray's pick for The Underground Adventure Begins from Blaster Master Zero. Fantastic reimagining or like beefing up of that track. I think it's unfair to pit it against anything else in this episode because it just stands head and shoulders above everything else. But I will say, if we ignore that, or if I pick a second track, it will be your Connected Chicks track.
I got to go with my Connected Chicks track. I was blown away with hearing that. It's just, again, it didn't sound like Blaster Master music. It sounded more like Mega Man stuff, but implementing those Sunsoft tones really helped bring it home, for me at least. But I'm going to give it to your Blaster Master Blasting Again track for a second runner-up.
That's fair.
Great song.
Castle
Really,
the Plants.
really blew me away on that one. So good stuff.
Nice.
Yeah. We want to hear what you guys have to say, so don't forget to let us know about this Blaster Master episode in any of our social medias, Discord, Facebook, Twitter, shouting from the rooftop, smoke signals. Let us know.
Yes, for sure. And before we get too much further into anything, something that we did not mention in our last episode, we've probably at least mentioned it on social media at this point, but to give folks an update as to why we apparently missed an episode a couple weeks ago. We are slowing down a little bit over the summer. Mike, whether people may or may not know, recently had his second child.
Yay!
So,
This is being recorded prior to her birth.
Right.
In June, just as a heads up.
The child is not in the world yet as of this recording, but as of the episode releasing...
definitely will be.
Yeah. This is coming out in...
Fingers crossed, everything goes kosher for that.
Yeah, no, I'm not even assuming any problems.
Right.
Because that's not good.
No.
So this is coming out on 7/21, just a few days before Blaster Master 03 comes out. If everything went according to what the doctors say, she's almost a month old.
Yeah, that's true. So we're going to be slowing down, as Justin said, the release schedule a little bit. We've been kind of recording back and forth here and there. So the next episode that is coming out is not coming out in 2 weeks. It's coming out in pretty much a month.
So, we'd like to take a moment to thank our Patreon patrons, without whom this show's continued improvement would be impossible. They are Alex Messenger, Cam Worma, Chris Hart, Jordan and Anson Davis, Mike Carney, Rage Cage, Kung Fu Carlito of the Heroes 3 podcast, Scott McElhone, Chris Myers, The Autistic Gamer 89, Brad Austin, Chris Murray, Jeremy Rutz, Llama Adam, Marcus Stewart, Nathan Cooper, Nick Davis, and Ryan McPherson.
If you would like to become a patron, you can sign up at patreon.com/XVGM Radio. There you can see the different tiers as well. Just $1 gets you a thank you and access to our monthly live shows.
You can visit our website, xvgmradio.com, where you can listen to all the episodes and learn more about your hosts, as well as any of our guests or composers that we've had on the show.
If you'd like to reach out to us, you can always email us at xvgmradio@gmail.com.
If you like what you've heard, please consider giving us a review on iTunes.
You can join our Facebook group and chat with other VGM lovers at www.facebook.com/groups/XVGM Radio, where we talk about everything from current game news to sharing awesome VGM tracks or just talking about the podcast itself.
You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram. Our handle on both those sites is at XVGM Radio.
If you don't have any other social media or just want to try something unique, check us out on our Discord group chat. Links in the show notes. All right, so in 1 month, instead of 2 weeks, 1 month, Justin, what are we coming back with?
So it's episode 80, and what does an episode that's divisible by the number 20 usually mean? It's a free picks.
That's right. Free picks for the fourth Unleash, as Justin has dubbed it.
That was my funny name.
Yep. Free picks means we get to pick anything we want. There is no theme. It is a free-for-all, all-you-could-eat VGM buffet.
All you can eat with your ears.
Exactly. So come back with your VGM hunger. This is Mike.
And Justin.
Signing off for XVGM Radio. You're not getting catch on the flip-flop time pants either, Chris. Sorry.
Why not?
Because that's my thing.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I said it.
I can't remember you ever saying that.
Yeah, no, in college it was the thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
Chris knows me from college.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of slow. It also just doesn't feel or sound at all like the original game. It just looks like they took the idea of what made Blaster Master great and they were like, hey, you kids like Blaster Master, right? Here, I'm going to put this down and, I got a Blaster Master costume on. What do you guys think? And you're like, no, sir, this is a Wendy's.